When Dylan pressed the doorbell, no one answered, amplifying my anxiety. He rang it again, but the silence stretched on. Worried about making a bad first impression, Dylan quickly said, "I'll go inside and check what's going on," before stepping through the door. My father sighed deeply and muttered, "This can't be a good sign." I couldn't shake my worry about how this would affect our wedding plans. I'm Brooklyn Wilson, a 26-year-old office worker. My single father raised me after my mother passed away when I was young. Watching him balance running a factory and attending every school event filled me with admiration. Even when he had to rush back to work, he never missed a chance to be there for me. In college, I met Dylan, a senior 2 years older than me. He was kind, polite, and sincere, qualities that immediately drew me to him. Despite his popularity, he accepted my confession, and we began dating. However, I noticed that he avoided talking about his relationship with his parents, which left me uneasy. Though Dylan lived alone, he would often visit them, returning drained and uneasy. Still, he always prioritized me, and I was proud of our relationship. I wanted him to meet my father, and when that day came, I was both nervous and excited. Thankfully, my dad and Dylan hit it off, which made me immensely happy. However, Dylan's overly enthusiastic reaction afterward puzzled me. When I asked about it, he brushed it off, which only deepened my concerns. Though everything seemed perfect, I couldn't shake the feeling that Dylan might not be as content as he seemed. A few days later, he asked for a serious conversation, and my worries only grew. We met at a cafe where I found him sitting by the window, looking troubled. I tried to hide my anxiety as I greeted him. "Sorry I kept you waiting, Dylan," I said, touching his shoulder. He jumped in surprise, replying, "Brooklyn, you scared me." "I didn't mean to," I apologized quickly. He took a deep breath and said, "Please sit down." I ordered a drink, but the tension in the air was palpable. "What's going on, Dylan?" I asked softly. "Is it about my dad?" He seemed taken aback. No, your dad is great. I respect him a lot," he reassured me. After a pause, he reluctantly admitted, "It's my parents. They're the problem." He shared how judgmental and overbearing his parents were, constantly meddling in his relationships and causing painful breakups by criticizing his partners. This made him anxious about involving them in our future. Dylan admitted that he wanted to marry me but couldn't bear the thought of his parents ruining our happiness. I reassured him that we could keep their involvement in the wedding minimal. I reminded him that my dad liked him, hoping to ease his fears, but Dylan had more to reveal. Meeting my father had left a deep impression on him. He admired my dad's kindness and warmth, wishing he could have someone like him as a parent. This revelation only deepened his inner turmoil. Dylan sighed and apologized for his hesitation. Then, with a newfound determination, he suggested, "When we meet my parents to discuss the wedding, could your dad come with us? Maybe his presence could influence them for the better." Although his request was unusual, I agreed to speak with my dad. I also told Dylan that I wished he had approached the conversation differently. He understood and apologized, then, with conviction, formally proposed to me. After discussing it with my father, who was initially reluctant, we arranged for Dylan to ask for my hand in marriage. Once my dad gave his blessing, Dylan and I planned to visit his parents. On the designated day, dressed in our best, we stood nervously outside Dylan's family home. The stories he told me about his parents made me uneasy, but with his hand in mine and my father by our side, I hoped for the best. My father, trying to lift the mood, urged us to stay calm. "Dylan's parents are just cautious. Nothing to worry about," he reassured us, giving my shoulder a comforting pat. When Dylan rang the doorbell, no one answered. My nerves skyrocketed. He rang again, but there was still no response. Worried about leaving a bad impression, Dylan quickly said, "I'll go check inside," and stepped in. My father and I exchanged tense glances as we waited in anxious silence. After what felt like forever, Dylan came back, looking unsettled. Before I could ask what was wrong, he forced a smile and said, "They'll be ready soon. I promise." My father sighed deeply, muttering, "This is not a good sign." I couldn't help but feel that this was all going to have a negative impact on our wedding. Finally, Dylan invited us inside, where his parents were waiting. However, the reception was far from warm. His mother greeted us with a stiff, insincere smile and said, "Oh, you finally arrived. while his father barely acknowledged us, gazing off into space. Despite the palpable tension, I pressed on with the introductions. "Mom, Dad, this is Brooklyn and her father," Dylan said, trying to steady himself. His words were kind, but his parents' cold, dismissive expressions only intensified the awkwardness. The situation quickly escalated when Dylan's mother accidentally spilled tea on my father, ruining the suit he had so carefully chosen for the meeting. Flustered, I quickly handed him a handkerchief, while Dylan scrambled to clean up. Rather than apologizing, his parents laughed, which only fueled Dylan's frustration and my rising anger. My father, visibly enraged, stood up suddenly, his voice firm as he pointed at them. "I'll make sure your business fails," he declared, his words dripping with authority. Grabbing my hand, he stormed out, leaving Dylan to deal with the fallout. I glanced back to see Dylan scolding his parents, their smug expressions faltering. At home, my father changed into fresh clothes, while Dylan followed, offering repeated apologies for the disastrous meeting. I overheard their conversation. My father's voice was still sharp with disappointment, though I could hear the regret in his tone. When my dad returned, his expression serious, Dylan approached me, kneeling down with regret in his eyes. "I'm so sorry," he said, his voice heavy with guilt. "I should have seen this coming." His sincerity made it clear he was taking full responsibility. Touched but feeling equally guilty, I placed my hand on his. "I'm sorry too. I shouldn't have pushed for this meeting without fully understanding what I was getting into." My father, standing nearby, spoke up. "Brooklyn, you have nothing to apologize for. Their actions are on them." His words reassured me, though a lingering question remained, urging me to find the courage to ask it. I asked Dad, "Are you serious about what you said earlier? Are you really going to destroy their business?" My father turned to Dylan, his expression unwavering. "Yes," he replied without a second thought. "They must face the consequences of their actions." As the CEO of a well-established local company, my father explained that the business was already struggling. "I started from the bottom at that factory," he said with a deep sigh. "I gave up my dream of being a painter to raise you after your mother passed. When the previous CEO retired, I stepped in to keep it running. Now, your fiancé's parents manage one of our subsidiaries, and their biases have led to its downfall." Dylan, listening intently, spoke up with quiet resolve. "If it helps, I fully support your decision. I've already cut ties with them and am willing to take responsibility for their actions." My father's gaze sharpened. "Are you sure about this, Dylan? Shutting down the subsidiary will impact its employees. Do you have a plan for them?" Dylan nodded without hesitation. "I've been planning that. I'll work without pay until every employee is taken care of. I'll personally assist them in finding new jobs. I'll do whatever it takes to make this right." I could feel the sincerity in his words. Turning to my father, I pleaded, "Dad, please give Dylan a chance. Let us move forward with the engagement." My father folded his arms and examined Dylan carefully. "Fine, but understand this. If you fail to handle this, the wedding is off." A few days later, Dylan presented a detailed plan to my father. "I've set up meetings with other employers willing to hire the employees. I'll oversee their transitions myself, ensuring everything goes smoothly. If anything goes wrong, I'll take full responsibility, even with my salary." Not long after, I came home to unsettling news. Our wedding would be delayed due to unavoidable circumstances. My father greeted me with a calm but firm tone. "Brooklyn, I've made a decision about the company. It wasn't easy, but it was necessary. I hope you understand why I had to act." I saw an opening and stepped forward. "Dad, let me help Dylan. I want to support him and manage this situation, even if it means working without pay. Please consider his proposal." Despite Dylan's protests, I desperately urged my father to give us a chance. After a long silence, he uncrossed his arms and gave a slight nod. Meanwhile, Dylan's parents still hadn't apologized. My father, perhaps growing weary of waiting for them to take responsibility, began preparing to take over Dylan's father's company. As time passed, the inevitable finally happened. The company collapsed. Dylan's parents called us to their home, where a crowd of former employees had gathered, angry and protesting the closure. They pointed fingers at me, accusing me of manipulating Dylan and using my father to bring about the company's downfall. In the midst of the uproar, Dylan stepped forward and raised his hands to calm the crowd. Please everyone, he said, his voice steady and clear. I understand your frustration. Let me explain what happened, and I promise I'll do everything I can to help you find new opportunities. Ignoring his parents' frantic interruptions, he continued, On behalf of my family, I apologize for the trouble this has caused. I'll take full responsibility and work hard to assist all of you. Dallin's sincerity seemed to resonate with the employees, who began to disperse, some even thanking him for his efforts. My father then stepped in, offering his support. I'll have the necessary details for you soon. You have my word. When the tension finally eased, Dylan's parents turned their anger inward. We're going to lose the house, his mother cried. This is all your fault, his father snapped, glaring at us. Dylan sighed, visibly worn out. Blaming others won't change anything. You use the house as collateral. Now you'll have to face the consequences. Despite their desperate pleas, Dylan's parents received no sympathy from anyone. The employees, now aware of the truth, paid no attention to their cries. My father, unmoved, simply said, You've brought this on yourselves. It's time to face the music. Unable to contain my frustration any longer, I spoke up. Haven't you caused enough damage for Dylan? You've spent all this time flaunting your status and titles, ignoring the responsibilities that came with them. Is it any surprise this happened? My words left them speechless. They opened their mouths to argue. But my father interrupted. Enough. A real business owner takes responsibility. At the very least, handle this with dignity, he demanded. With that, Dylan's parents fell silent. We walked away, leaving them to deal with the aftermath. In the end, they lost everything: the company, the house, and the land. They never took responsibility for their actions, dodging their obligations to the employees. After hitting rock bottom, they turned to Dylan for help. Dylan, we're your parents. Please help us, they begged. But Dylan had reached his limit. I'm sorry, but I can't help you anymore, he said coldly, walking away for good. Soon after, rumors began circulating that Dylan's parents had been jailed. Even if they were released, their debts to the former employees remained, ensuring their future would be bleak. Following the ordeal, Dylan and I both left our jobs and joined my father's company. We lived off our savings for the first month, working without pay as promised. One day, we ran into a former employee from Dylan's parents' company. Thank you for giving me this opportunity, the employee said, shaking our hands warmly. Dylan, I'm so grateful you arranged this job, and thank you, they added, turning to me. I'll never forget when you helped me carry materials. Their words lifted our spirits, and we hurried to my father's office to share the good news. He greeted us with a smile and handed us several thick envelopes. These are your salaries for the past few months, he explained. I had to use multiple envelopes because it wouldn't all fit in one. Stunned, we looked at him, and he continued, Your hard work has reinvigorated the team. Everyone is grateful for your contributions and constantly asks about you. Our performance has improved tremendously, thanks to you. Overwhelmed with emotion, we hugged each other. My father turned to Dylan, his expression warm. Dylan, your leadership has impressed me. If you're willing, I'd be honored to have you marry my daughter. With tears in his eyes, Dylan replied, Yes, of course. Thank you, sir. Turning to me, he bowed deeply. I'll take care of her for the rest of my life. I embraced him, tears streaming down my face, and so we were married. Together we continued working at my father's company, building a happy life and growing in our roles. Time passed, and we reached a new milestone. I was preparing for maternity leave. My father, Dylan, our colleagues, and I were all eagerly awaiting the arrival of our child, excited for the next chapter of our lives. Thanks for watching, and see you again in the next video. Stay stunned.